Hey, hey, hey. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Office Hours with Lanora. I created this series to help three types of people: those that are new to the industry and learning about their options related to a career in real estate. I want to help get you the questions that you have answered. For those that have started a pre-licensing course, my goal is to help you pass that pre-licensing course on a first attempt. And finally, for those that have already started the journey as a real estate professional, I'd love to help you stay in the industry, okay? So on today's episode of Office Hours with Lenora, we're going to talk about some test taking tips and techniques to help you. I will not be talking about those questions specifically on the test, but I do want to help you, especially when it comes to your nerves and all of that good stuff. So let's get started. The first thing that I would like for any test taker, whether it be for the residential leasing agent course or the broker course or the managing broker pre-licensing course, when it's your time to go take the test, I want you to do some things. When you're sitting in front of that computer, or if you're at home, however, wherever you take the exam, now you have the option to take it from home. I want you to relax. I want you to kind of shake it off, loosen up, just kind of focus on your breathing. What I notice is, just like most people, including myself, I'm not a great test taker. But watch this. I will smash a test and prepare myself to the point of where I've kind of amped myself up to successfully pass that test. So focusing on your breathing, number one, will help you to relax. I know that sounds so basic, but the first thing that you do is you panic and you're in front of this test and now your hands start to sweat and you're like, what am I going to do? Focus on the breathing, control that, loosen up a little bit. Hopefully that helps. Let's talk about what I would like you to do. And the points that I'm going to, give to you today are in no specific or particular order. So take them and use them as you please. The second point that I would like to make is, as soon as you get the green light, the go to begin your test, I want you to, before you begin, when you walk into the testing facility, I want you to ask, if they don't provide it to you automatically, I want you to ask for a scrap sheet of paper. Just ask for it. They're going to give it to you if you're in a testing facility for the proctor of the state. If you're at home taking this test, you cannot use scrap paper, to my knowledge, unless they've changed it recently, because you're in a confined space, you're in a box on your computer. You can't be looking over and down and up because they don't know if you're cheating that way. So as of October 16th of 2021, you do have the option to take your pre-licensing exams from home. I don't know if you want to do that though, and we'll get to a point about that. But the first thing I want you to do with that scrap sheet of paper is write down your formulas. Write down the equations, the T bar, those things where you put the commission and the sales price and the percentage. Write all of that stuff down. The rules, maybe you have some acronyms that you want to try to remember. I need you to try to get as much of this out and on that sheet of paper, even though you haven't crossed the question yet. By the time you get to the question, you probably will forget the formula or the acronym. So by placing it on the paper, as soon as you get the green light to start your test, you can just simply look over versus trying to remember, and now you're nervous or something of that nature is preventing you from remembering the steps or the formula, okay? So write it down, get it out of your head so that you don't forget. The second point that I want you to do or consider is, on your computer, at a testing center, you're definitely going to see this. You will see the time. There's a clock, there's a timer that's showing you how many hours or how many minutes you have left to complete your exam. I personally turn that timer off. I don't need to see it because it's stressing me out by me watching that timer and it's saying you have an hour and 15 minutes left. Well, I don't know how many questions I have left. You can see that, but I just don't want to be bound by I keep watching the time and I'm stressing and I'm not focused on the test. So I typically turn the timer off. It's up to you if you want to do it. You will get a warning at the 20-minute mark that you are 20 minutes from the end of your allotted time. So you will get a reminder, but just kind of pace yourself. On average, you should be spending about 1 to 2 minutes per questions or less. If you're in that 2-minute mark, you're spending too long answering the question. And that's going to be another one of my recommendations about answering those questions. Let's look at my concerns with taking the test or the exam at home. It is really, really, really a strict and strenuous process to take this type of licensing exam at home. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Do I recommend it? No, I don't. I don't know of anyone, any of the students that I've personally worked with and talked to that have passed and at home. No one has. Facebook, come back. Okay, I'm back. So that doesn't mean it's impossible. It's just that the nerves and how strict they are, the proctor for the state in someone trying to schedule an exam and take the exam, they're going to scan your room. They're, you know, I've heard students tell me, if you have a closet in your room, you have to show them the inside of that closet. You've got to scan your floor and your ceiling, all 4 corners of that room, to ensure that no one is in the room feeding you answers. You have to stay within that box that you'll see on your computer. If I move to the side or lean or I look down or go across for too long, it will shut the computer off, and that's an attempt, and you would have failed the test. So if at all possible, I always highly recommend that students go into a testing center to take their test. Make sure that for social distancing purposes, to prevent the spread of COVID, you do wear your mask. You can wear plastic gloves if you're comfortable with doing those as well. But I recommend that you go into a testing center to take this test, okay? The first thing that I want you to do outside of writing down and jotting your notes, the next thing I should say, I want you to glance at the answers first. Look at the answers just really quickly, A, B, C, and D. Just check the answers out. Because after you look at the answers, I want you to read the last sentence first. Read the last sentence first, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to give you a non-real estate example on why I want you to read the last sentence first. Let's say Lanora has 5 watermelons, 2 bananas, and 3 pears. Renee has 7 apples, 2 mangoes, and an orange. And Michael has 14 papayas and 7 bananas. The question is, how many watermelons did the team have? So if I've read over my answers, I see papaya, I see bananas, I see watermelons, I see whatever the other fruits that I mentioned. But the next step would be to read the last sentence in that question. Lanora, was the only one in that example that had watermelons. So in my example, by reading the answers first, I know what I'm going to be approaching in the question. By reading the question second, now I have like my blinders on. I know what I'm looking for. So when I read the question, because that's step number 3 to this, step number 3 is called RDQ. Read the darn question. You know, I didn't say darn though, but read the whole question. So step 1, read the answers. Just glance at them. Step 2, read the last sentence in the paragraph or in the question, and then read the entire question. So we're training your mind to pick out what is necessary instead of all of the fluff that you're going to see in some of these questions. Now, that's a quick and easy way that I do. I've passed that information off to a ton of students, and it has been most helpful for them. So I hope it's helpful for you. You also want to make sure that you get the easiest questions out of the way first. So if you have 145 questions And some of the questions might be one sentence, others might be considered to be small paragraphs. If you can just glance through and get through all of those one sentence questions first, you can go back to answer those questions that might have been a little challenging for you. But I'm going to caution you against marking those questions for review and then going back later because you may run out of time. Here's another suggestion or a tip that I have, and it's called tip of the tongue syndrome. Tip of the tongue syndrome. Basically, again, answer the easier questions first because you're more apt to have that first answer that come to mind that you choose to be your best answer. So again, tip of the tongue syndrome. If you can think about it and you're like, it's on the tip of my tongue. That's it. That's the answer that I want you to stick with. Don't change it. Because if it stood out to you like that, you've probably seen it in your book or on a study aid that you use. And you may have gotten that answer right so many times that it stuck with you. So if it's on the tip of your tongue, leave it alone. Don't change it. Choose it and move on. Let's talk about words like always, never, completely, and only. These are words that are considered to be absolutes. These terms define concepts as either right or wrong. So you're probably going to get 4 answers to your questions. The absolute answers will say always, never. It's never going to be, if it's a never question, something's never going to happen. Or I'll give you an example of a question. It's not on the test. But in Illinois, you absolutely must be licensed to receive a commission from real estate or representing a client in real estate purposes. Absolutely is in that question. And that question is correct because if I'm receiving a commission for representing someone other than myself in a real estate transaction in Illinois, I absolutely must have a real estate license. When it stands in your face like that, it's almost always a yes or no. So if you see a question on the exam that says true or false, you got a 50-50 chance there. So you have to know for sure. If it's saying absolutely, it's either absolutely right or it's absolutely wrong. Okay, so let those words stick out to you. You're going to also watch for words like not, least, and except. It's easy to forget that you're supposed to select the negative response or the opposite. So if the answer is saying except real estate professionals must, attorneys, let me give you a better example. I'm just thinking off the top of my dome. The only people that are allowed to amend a real estate contract are the following, except real estate brokers. The except is saying except real estate brokers. So real estate brokers cannot amend a real estate contract. So they're excluded out of that question. And if you go down the answers and you see an attorney, automatically you know that's right because a real estate attorney or any type of attorney can amend a contract, whereas a real estate agent, we only fill in the blanks. Real estate brokers, we don't write anything in terms of amending or changing a legal document or something that already is pre-populated. All we have to do is go in and put in like a sales price or the name of our client, those sorts of things. Okay, let's also move on and talk about transfer stamps. You'll always have 4 answers for a transfer stamp question. And I see a lot of students mess this up. In the question, the transfer stamp will give you what your calculator will say with the ... on it. So it might say, my calculator not on. It might say 24,500. I'm reading upside down. 24,555.5. The transfer stamp question, that answer that your calculator gave you is the formulas that you wrote down and worked out. But the purpose of the transfer question is always going to be round up. The answer will be the one that is rounded to whatever. It's rounded up to the next dollar, the next half of 50 cents, whatever. Round up. Never select the answer that shows up on your calculator with a decimal point. So if it's 24,555, I see that answer as one of the 4 answers on for my question. If I see the 24,555, if the next answer is 25,000, and then the next answer might be 21,000, and the fourth answer might be 20,000. Every day of the week, I'm selecting the answer that said 25,000. I'm rounding up, never down, up for transfer stamps. Okay, let's talk about limiting the use of that mark for review feature. I spoke about it. So you're going to be able to go through. I said if you can just pick out the easier questions and get those out of the way, you can mark questions for review to go back to them at the end of your exam. It's okay to do that. But if you're one of those people that don't trust your gut and you want to go back now and you've marked 99 questions out of 140 as marked for review, you're about to fail the test. So you're only marking questions for review that you absolutely are taking too long to answer. And you're like, okay, I've read it. I got to come back to you because I need to progress and get through this test. Limit the amount of questions that you mark for review. Stick with a question for about 1 to 2 minutes, move on. If you've marked this question for review and you find that you got that 20-minute warning, you need to hit those mark for review questions and start checking answers. Checking an answer, selecting an answer, mark something, because the chances of you leaving those blank could lead to you failing the test. But you need to answer each and every question on this test. Don't go back and start changing answers after you got through the entire test. That it's crucial that you do not do that. If you selected an answer and you felt good about that answer when you checked it and you moved on, leave that answer alone. Remember, we talked about the tip of the tongue syndrome. If you were good, if it felt good, that was the answer that you went with at the beginning, don't change it in the end. I've seen so many students go back because they had, I've got an hour left on my test. I have 20 minutes left on my test. And then they start rereading the questions again. Change the answer. Change the answer. We're going to stick to the first one. We need to talk about how do you prepare yourself for this test. So let's visit the day before your scheduled exam. If you're a morning person, whenever you've scheduled this exam, if you're a morning person, do your routine. Get up in the morning. Get up bright and early in the morning. Have a great breakfast. Make sure that you kind of wind down. You prepared yourself. You get into that mental space to be ready. If you're an evening person and you've scheduled your exam for later in the day, I don't care if it's evening or morning, do not get up the day of your exam, whether your appointment is at 9 a.m. or your appointment is at 3 p.m. I don't think you can get it that late, but if it is 3 p.m., do not start cramming. I don't even want you touching the materials the day of your exam. Trust me, if you find yourself cramming and going through that exam, let me just read 6 more questions and let me just study this part, you're probably going to go into the testing center anxious. And remember, the first thing that I told you is to focus on your breathing and loosen up, relax. You don't want to be in a stress testing scenario. So please don't touch the materials the day of your test. I want you to prepare the night before your exam and taking your test. Stop studying, cut it off. For me, if I have to take a test, a standardized test like this, I stop studying at 4 p.m. the day before. If I don't know it by 4 p.m. the day before my exam, guess what I won't know the day of my exam? The answers. You can't go into this situation like this with real estate, with these types of real estate exams. Relax. Have that firm deadline. Cut it off. In my example, 4 p.m. Yours might be 5 p.m. Cut it off the day before. And then I want you to relax. I want you to get something good, some nourishment, some good food in your system. I want you to take a hot, relaxing bath and just kind of wind down and relax. Tell your babies, tell your significant other, tell your family members, your friends, please leave me alone. I need you to get into a space. I want you to be like Michael Jordan in the 1997 finals, game number 5, when he played with the flute. I want you to be in such, just have that vision, just have that zone that you're in, that nothing can stop you. So if you get all the phone calls and you stand on Facebook and you're trying to study up until the last minute, you won't be in the zone. You're going to fail. I hope you don't, though. Let's talk about, I just want to give you some best advice because we kind of went over everything. Here's my best advice. If you start preparing, you won't have to do much repairing in the end. So let me break that down, what I mean. Basically, what we just talked about. Use your study aids effectively. Get a study aid, spend about a week or 2 with it, practicing until your test date or the day before your test date. Get in the zone of preparing for this exam. I've told you before, I've never taken a pre-licensing course without using a study aid. Stop thinking that you can just read the book and go in and master this exam. Some of us can. I'm not one of those people. I don't know if you are. Use your study aids. Change your way of thinking. If you're one of these people that say, I can't do math, I fail at math, I suck at math, I can't sit at a computer all day, blah, blah, blah. You just put it in the universe. And those 10 questions out of 145 that are related to math, the first question that you see, you automatically build up this thing of what you can't do and you fail, you flunk. Don't go into this situation with that mindset of what you can't do. What if you have those positive affirmations on, I believe in myself. I know I can go in and pass this real estate exam on the first attempt or the second attempt, or even if it's your last attempt. I'm coming out of this thing victorious today. I got this. You can do it. Speak that type of affirmation over yourself. Give yourself that type of positive energy and watch what happens with your test. You've got to believe in yourself. Last but not least, just believe. This is nothing more than a vocabulary test. So when I talk to people and all they want to start out with is it's math, it's math, it's math. Nope, you better know a lot about those acronyms. You better know a lot about the laws, the rules, the regulations. It's a memorization test. It's a test built on words. It's a test about vocabulary for the most part. If you know how to effectively study, this type of test should not bother you. You're going to go in, the average person that's finishing a real estate pre-licensing course and then moving on to take the test, within 1 hour, maybe 2 max, within that 1 to 2 hour window, you should be done with this test and walking out with that golden ticket that says congratulations. Okay? That's all I have. I'm prepared to help you pass on the first attempt, but it has to start inside of you. We can teach you that book word for word from front to back, all 500 plus pages of it. But if you have the mindset that you're already defeated before you go into the testing center, if you're going to speak that thing over you, that you can't do this, you can't be the first in your family to achieve this type of goal, you will not achieve it. So I want you to start with the belief system in yourself that you can go out, go in, and come out victoriously. And that's all that I have for you on this episode of Office Hours with Lanora. Make sure you check above for the upcoming next class dates in the month of July. We have the broker in-person class at our downtown facility. We have the broker Saturday webinar option coming up. We also have the residential leasing in-person classes coming up in the month of July. I will be out of the office all next week on a very much necessary, needed, welcomed vacation. And I won't see you guys or be able to talk to you at that time, but I look forward to meeting you back here at the very next episode of Office Hours with Lanora. Hey, Miss Renee. Hey, Michael. Thank you all for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you then. Ta-ta for now. Bye-bye.